All right, we're live. Daytona Bike Week and Biketoberfest. Hopefully, sorry about that. I was waiting for my family to leave because they're loud.
I thought that's what you called the stream for a second. I'm like, why are we talking about Biketoberfest on a stream about audio thing? I'm not averse to the idea. It's more a point of curiosity than anything else.
Oh, my coffee. 1 second. Oh, so how's everybody doing tonight?
Trevor Shand, fuck off.
Trevor Shand. There's a name.
There's a
name drops.
Name drops. Oh, he just had his. I'm like repurposing a promo literally while we do this stream.
Nice. Oh yeah, you gotta get your face up here so you don't freeze.
Pro Tools, fuck off. 2021. There we go.
All right. Dylan's still doing work in the background.
Oh, I can
multitask. So you know. Yeah.
I'm literally like, the story behind this one is this promo is done. It's just the version that they wanted to reuse from 2019, the male voice, who I shall not name, is not Trevor. The male voice's read was absolute shit, so I got him to revoice it.
Dan. Hey, man.
As das.
I have a big thank you to Dan. Dan hooked me up with MakerPipe. This is a pretty big deal. I actually contacted MakerPipe.
You want to fill me in on what the fuck that is?
Okay, so I'm doing that VO booth for it's a blanket booth for my co-host. And Dan in the last stream, I'd forgotten all about it because he just dropped the line. You should try these MakerPipe. And I'd forgotten about it. And then a couple days ago, I was like, oh, you know what? I should go look into that. And so I contacted MakerPipe. And what they do is they make the joints that hold the pipes together, basically. And they're proprietary joints. And it's
I love me some joints and pipes, I got to tell you.
It's supposed to be used with 3/4 inch conduit, which is relatively cheap when you think about it. And so I messaged them and I'm like, guys, not looking for a free handout. All I want to do is like hook up with you. Maybe we can design this together and I can get a lot of this stuff kind of figured out before I do it so I'm not screwing around for the video. And they were all in. They're like, dude, we'll send you the stuff. We'll help you. We'll get our engineers behind it. They're sending me a mini kit of all the like mini little connectors and mini pipes so I can actually design a mini version of it. And then what they do, and this is the really cool thing, they take your design. Once you've proven your design, they put the design up on their website so that anyone can do it. And they've got a ton of designs, like a ton of them online already for everything. What are you laughing at? You're not multitasking.
No, I just voiceover people are insane.
Yes.
For anyone who's never worked with that, so just because it's literally in front of me, I have to play this for our wonderful audience base. It's very quick, I promise.
I was talking. Come on.
I know.
Nice, warm.
I asked him for a nice warm read, and he goes on this wonderful little diatribe for me.
Nice, warm, proud. Well, who could you think of that's better than Gary? Gary can do this. Gary, be nice, warm, and proud. Okay, I will. I gotta be so many things to so many people.
I don't know what that last part means. It concerns me a little bit. But anyway, continue.
All right. So, MakerPipe. Eden Knight. Nice. Welcome to the stream. I've never seen your name before. Welcome. This is the Friday Live. Okay, so MakerPipe, Dan sends me there. They're all into it. They're like, yes, we want to do this. And the fact that they'll take the design, the Dark Corner Studios design, as they'll call it, and they'll post that on the website, and then anyone can go on, they can use the same design and build whatever they want, like a voiceover booth. And so, yeah, they're fully behind it. They're sending me all the linkages. I just got to get myself some conduit and blankets. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be, so I'm going to be doing probably 3 videos all in all. Like the first one will be just kind of me designing with the mini pipe and the mini kit. And then the second one will be the build. And then the third one will be a comparison with the old booth back here, the Vox, Isovox 2. And I'm really curious to see how the Isovox is going to stand up against a blanket booth. Because, by the way, they also have blanket booths. You can buy a blanket booth PVC, the whole kit for $500, which I think is a big ripoff. Your mic's muted, by the way.
I just said that's. I don't know. I mean, there are booth kits that cost up into the mid 4 figures. Like that's not
yeah,
as
but
bad
it's a
as
blanket booth. Like it's moving blankets, right? For $500,
moving blankets aren't cheap.
$12 a piece. If you go to an actual moving supply company, a 3-pound blanket, which is average, costs.
Nobody does that though. Nobody goes to a moving supply company. They
Well,
all get it
that's
from,
what
like-
I'm gonna do. I'm gonna list everything in the description. So if you want to go build it, but I think
most people buy it on Amazon, which are like marked up by like 1,800%.
oh, they're brutal. Like, well, that's because people are doing this, and that's what I loved about MakerPipe was, if you go on and you try to find just metal pipe, you know, that you can build stuff out of with 1-inch metal pipe.
Yeah.
It is ridiculously expensive now because everyone's using it for crafts. So that becomes such an issue. And like Dan was saying, he built the coolest thing last night after I talked about it, built an 8-space rack on casters that holds a 4-space SKB Studio Flyer. Like, you can build anything you want if you have 3/4-inch conduit and these MakerPipe things. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a cool build. And this is kind of the fun stuff. I don't know how many people actually want to watch some dude build a booth, but I think it's going to be pretty cool. So, U.S. Cargo Supply sold me sound blankets. They're pretty good blankets, though. Interesting. And that's the thing. Like, everyone's moving blankets before used to not be that expensive because they were just heavy blankets. That's all.
In the
they
same
were.
way that SM7s used to also not be that expensive.
Right? But now, oh wait, everyone's using them for voiceover.
Oh yeah,
booths.
supply and demand. Everything is victim of laws of supply and demand.
But if you look, and if you know some people, like one of the things I'm going to need is I need 60 feet of conduit, which is about 15 feet per, or $15 per 10 feet. So the booth only has to be 6 feet tall because the dude that's using it's 5'8". And do you know how much headroom you need in a booth, Dylan?
How much like physical headroom?
Yeah, like how much should you have when you're recording? Like you need space above your head to give the sound enough room to move.
So you want to try and keep the mic away from a boundary, even if the boundary is like a low, and I've often seen this with like when you're miking an amp in a larger room, and a lot of people's first instinct will be to drape like a curtain or some big heavy blanket of sorts over the mic in front of the amp cab to isolate it a little bit. But the problem is usually the bass goes through the roof. Like as soon as you do that. So yeah, try to keep it away from a boundary. So wall, ceiling, floor. So I'd say like maybe 2 feet. So if you have like an 8-foot high booth, so basically like your booth should be I would say as high as a room. I mean, if you can.
Oh, really? So I should build it higher than 6 feet if he's 5'8".
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
I definitely would.
Good to know. Like that's the kind of stuff that I don't know, right? Like I'm not sure about. I know that a lot of booth makers, like for example, this thing has the ceiling of it is only about 8 inches away from the top of the mic in my Isovox 2.
Now, so there is when it comes to acoustics, it's all about the math behind it is, what they define as a boundary is any massive sudden change in like atmospheric density. So obviously the density of air is a lot different than the density of drywall.
Yeah.
So, but the less aggressive of a shift, the less of a boundary effect that you're going to have. So for example, if you've got a room and then you've got a block of lead, the boundary effect is going to be absolutely atrocious. But if you have a room and then like a big foam board or something that is movie and it's spongy material, it's one of the reasons why absorption panels are so effective. But regardless, you're still going to get some kind of boundary effect unless the walls of your booth are made of air.
That's probably what creates the boxiness in this thing, in the Isovox 2.
Yeah, I don't blame Isovox for it because, I mean, they're trying to make something that's portable and small. So, and they've obviously, the material is not super dense. It's not as dense as gypsum, but it's still, they're really close. So you've got boundaries and you're going to get that. It's the same, like if you're in a room, any room with speakers, even just regular like 6 or 8 inch driver speakers, and you sit in your mixing position, like in my case, my mixing position is pretty much dead center in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
In all axes. If I sit here, the bass sounds okay. There's still a few standing waves that I have learned to ignore, But if I get up and I walk and go right against the door or against this back wall and put my ear to the wall, holy shit, the bass gets like woof, like
Really, yeah?
immediately. Oh yeah, it's crazy, which is one of the reasons why they say for like bedroom mixing, like a lot of people will like push their studio off to a corner. It's like, don't do that.
Yeah, no
Don't
kidding,
do that,
eh?
especially if you're if with voiceover stuff, not a big deal. But if you're trying to like mix shit,
All right, Hint of Shrimp. Hey, y'all, I introduced our channel to a friend of mine who is obsessed with the 7B. He was dumbfounded by the fact that you can remove the transformer from a 58 and make them so similar. Yeah, that's kind of eye-opening. I mean, I don't understand people that are obsessed with an SM7B. I don't think it's the best vocal mic you can buy if you throw condensers in the mix.
I mean, it's a great mic. Are there better mics out there? Yeah. In fact,
Yeah.
you know, but that said, I mean, if you if the SM7B is your main workhorse, you're fine.
Yeah.
You're fine. Provided, again, as we talked about with another friend on Facebook this week, provided you have something to power the fucking thing.
Yeah. Daytona, I use velvet curtains around my room. It works pretty good. Velvet curtains are awesome. Especially as long as they're not pulled taut and you
Yeah.
actually
Yes.
have some of the wave to them.
Yeah.
They're fantastic, especially for voice work. You're not going to be taking out many bass signals with that, bass waves with that, but
No,
for
but
voiceover, it's fantastic.
especially voiceover. Like even honestly, those shitty 1 foot by 1 foot colored alternating panels that you can get on Amazon, they're like everywhere.
Yeah.
Those for voiceover, considering how bloody cheap they are, like $12 for a pack of like 16 of them. They're not bad, but limit is voice. Anything outside of voice, or other than maybe a flute. It's not going to
For
go
the
well.
flutists in the audience.
The flautists, yeah.
The flautists in the audience. Daytona. Yeah, okay. Dan says, I finally got an SM7B Black Friday. It came the next day from Amazon. Hope the Amazon link helps. Oh, absolutely. In fact, the past month and a half has been fantastic on Amazon for the affiliates links. It's just been... this is the lead up to Christmas, and I think with a lot of tech, the lead up to Christmas is big, and then all of a sudden January just bottoms out. And it's funny too because this is whenever you see a creator doing like the 12 days of Christmas where they release a video every day for 12 days leading up to Christmas, that's because their CPM right now is ridiculously high. Like I'm trying to do, because my employment's changing in January, I'm trying to get into the mode of doing 2 videos a week. I have some pretty big plans for when things start to change in the new year. I'm in talks with Scarlett or Focusrite right now about doing a series on the new Claret Plus Pro. Don't make that face. So I'm going to be doing a series on those. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to play out, but I want to get into doing 2 videos a week. But man, just a second video during the week. You want to see your CPM go through the roof? Put more videos out. It's amazing.
Well, yeah, that's. I think any platform, like the algorithm rewards you for cranking out shit.
Oh, absolutely.
Always,
And
yeah.
I mean, you still have to put something out that people want to click
Oh
on.
yeah, you have to put out something that performs at
Yeah.
least somewhat well. But it's a snowball effect. The more shit you put out, the more the algorithm will, kind of turn a blind eye for the first 20 minutes of the video being out.
It's funny, too, because I released the video. So the Monday's video was supposed to be, a lot of people were like, oh, we want to see this video. It was the LCT 440, which, by the way, I misnamed the microphone in the video, by the way. In the
What did you
title
call
of the
it?
video, I called it the C440 because I was so used to the C414.
Yeah,
And it took
little
me
Freudian slip.
It took me a day and a half to realize that I'd misnamed the video. It was the Lewitt C440 Pure Review and Comparisons. And I'm like, what the hell did I do? So I changed it up, but it's gotten 0 love. Like, it's gotten 458 views, which is okay. But then I release a video bitching about Behringer, and it goes through the roof. Like, it's already got twice the amount of views in half the amount of time. Which leads me to another thing. People seem to really like the negative shit. If you gripe about something, people are clicking on that stuff left.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, humans inherently are toxic little creatures.
Right?
We love nasty shit. We
Well,
love gossip. We love shit talking. Like, it's funny.
my
I last year, little side story. Last year at work, I was not officially written up, but my manager had a chat with me about allegedly gossiping in the workplace. So over the next 24 hours, and his definition of gossip, which I don't agree with, but is technically the definition of gossip, any discussion, positive, neutral, or negative, about somebody when they're not around, technically qualifies as gossip. So if I give a coworker a compliment to their manager, that's gossip, technically.
Yeah.
So I played a game over the next 24 hours from that conversation and gauged how many of my colleagues I had on a Teams call, how many of them shit talked somebody. And the ratio was 100%.
Yeah.
Even I was talking to a manager in the GTA, and they're a very controlled and calculated manager, and even they shit talked. I had one of our program directors at the time was shit talking a voice talent out in like Vancouver, and I'm like, okay, so that's not like we're in radio. Come on, like it's.
Well, it's fascinating. Bandrew says negative stuff that's produced well will do well, and I've gone back over all of the videos that I did that were, I don't like this product. People click on it, and there's one of two reactions I'm gonna get. Yeah, dude, you're right. It sucks. Or, dude, you have no idea what you're talking about. I own that.
Yep. It's like anytime you review one of those, like it was the M Audio kit that you did.
And that thing's been falling off. People have lost interest, but the Scarlett one was like,
they're not gonna let that go.
Everyone likes the Scarlett. But then, just over the past week and a half, I have a video called "Why Does Everybody Hate the Blue Yeti?" And this video did nothing for like, I'd say about 6 months. Like it just kind of, and then all of a sudden it shot through the roof. It's my best performing video of all time on a daily basis. And it's just me shitting on the Blue Yeti and why it's a shitty mic. And everybody's watching it. So I put out the Behringer video, and once again, and I'm not even personally calling out Behringer. I'm just telling people why people don't like Behringer. That's it.
Yep.
There's nothing like me going, oh, Behringer sucks because of that. No, this is why people don't like Behringer. Yep. And I tried to be as careful as possible. I actually had to delete a portion of the video because I got a fact wrong. And I did that, but it was just because I don't want to shit on Behringer. That's not the point of the video. People have asked, why do you hate Behringer? Well, this is why. By the way, catching up here, Big Tasty Ben, good evening, buddy. Got a medal? Oi, lads.
Oi.
Oi, back at you.
Oi, mate.
Dan wants to know, Dylan, do you have ideas for the shapes you would cut and use for OC705 for bass traps? Good question.
Triangles. I mean, standard shape for bass traps is typically you want to maximize the material as much as you can. And bass tends to consolidate in corners because you've got two boundaries that meet up.
Yeah.
So standing waves in corners of rooms are particularly shitty, and the bass tends to amplify itself there. So if you, bass traps belong in corners or in any kind of general crevices. So putting up, I would typically at a 45-degree angle, and then behind the 705 put some soft fiberglass of some kind, and then maybe some fabric on the top to stop any particle.
So rock wool behind would probably be good.
Yeah. Yep. Rock wool would be good. And then one thing about absorption, and it's something that people get wrong a lot, is so earlier we talked about boundaries and the effect that boundary has on wave propagation, especially in the context of a booth. Something else that's interesting about boundaries is there's a certain, they call it kinetic transduction, but there's a certain energy transfer loss that happens at a boundary. And the more aggressive the differences between the boundary and the more boundaries that there are, the more the loss. So if you're trying to soundproof a room, having like the best thing that you can do if you can build it is having drywall, studs, air gap, studs, drywall. Having that, gas, solid, gas is way, way effective. And I've put drafts for studio builds together for people, and they're like, I can do metal like machine gun kick in this room and nobody can hear it outside. And it's ridiculous. But that said, applying that to absorption, if you're going to put absorption panels on your wall, it's more effective to use spacers. Yep. Small spacers behind, so that it doesn't need to be a crazy air gap, but like a 1/4 of an inch or more if you can swing it behind the panel, between the panel and the drywall. You will get more absorption if you have that little air gap than you would just having the panel flush against the wall.
These homemade panels that I made, the Rockwool basic boxes, I put
Yeah,
a
those are great.
spacer for a 1-inch gap, and it completely changed it. Like it was,
Yeah.
it completely sucks it up. Well worth it. And I mean, they're not as good as the OC705, which, by the way, I need to pick some up. I know it's not that expensive. Like, it's really not, in the grand scheme of things, not that expensive. I got a whole bunch more of the Orlex, which I don't really know what to do with because there's only so much Orlex you can put up before you're like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe put it on the floors. I don't know.
Compared to honestly, like Orlex does have some great products. I don't knock the company. They're I mean one of the top two. There's two companies that are really widespread and known in Prime Acoustic and Orlex. Prime Acoustic I found to be on the absorption side to be a lot more efficient in a mixing context.
Yeah.
If you're trying to create a booth, Orlex all the way. But if you're trying to tune a room for mixing or a live room for tracking, Prime Acoustic panels. Get a Prime Acoustic kit like the London kit.
I'm looking at like one of the future builds. I actually want to build a voiceover booth in this basement, right beside me where there's an air duct, and I want to put an air duct pass through with it So it's going to be a very, very complicated build with the.
Oh, it'll be
duct put in.
invasive.
Yeah, it's going to be invasive, but it's going to be fun as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It sounds fun.
And I've got like room for like a 6x6 here, which will be cut down quite a bit with double walls, but I think it'll be a hoot and a hanny. Dan says one idea for blanket booth made out of 3/4 inch conduit. I was thinking of making dimensions and multiples of 2. I don't think it really matters much with a blanket fort. Like if you're doing a blanket booth. Now that said, he does say that way I can later attach pieces of OC703 foam that comes in 2x4 sections without cutting them.
Okay, so on that point, generally with building spaces catered for audio, avoid proportional measurements.
Yes, big time.
As much as you can.
In a
Proportional
blanket booth, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, not so much. Lots of things not good for designing spaces for audio. Proportional measurements is one. So having a 10 by 20 foot room, bad.
Yes.
I say this currently sitting in a 10 by 20 foot room, but not great. Also, parallel surfaces. That one's kind of obvious. But I laughed talking to an acoustician once about a studio build, and we were talking about how when you're working with an architect and you're describing to them dimensions and you give them a floor plan, it looks like it was drawn by a child. Because all the angles are all fucked up and it looks like why is the room like a parallelogram? What is happening? Or like a freaking rhombus. And that's the reason, because those like that having parallel surfaces is it allows shit to bounce back and forth and you get standing waves
and equally bounce back and forth. Big Tasty Ben, this is an interesting question. And not a lot of people know this, but what Ben says is, I don't have the ability to put up or make sound panels, moving blankets, or bass traps, so I'm looking at the Vomo vocal booth. Thoughts if you've heard of it. Now, the one thing you need to know about vocal booths, especially the cheaper ones, is you end up having to put up the panels anyways. Like the vocal booth itself is just meant for sound isolation from the rest of the world, and then you have to treat it yourself with, foam, with the OC705 or even this stuff, the Orlex. So you kind of have to treat it anyways. So if you don't need sound isolation from the rest of the world, so if you have a relatively quiet room, you're better off treating the room than getting a voiceover booth for it. Or if you need like super clean audio through your mic, like I'm talking about, you can't even hear a fly fart.
Yeah, when talking about audio in the context of a studio, there's two metrics that generally acousticians think about. And I've had to put on my acoustician hat way more than I have wanted to in my life. And those are the AT and STC, the acoustic treatment, which is what we're talking about, and then sound transmission class, which is actually how does the sound get out of the room. If you're doing VO most of the time, unless I can't really think of a context, unless, I don't know, recording a construction ad or something.
Yeah.
You probably won't run into issues with a noise unless you're in an apartment, maybe.
Well, no, like actually I was speaking with a voiceover professional that is one of the issues they're having is they live in an apartment downtown, close by here, and you can hear sometimes, especially she's got an MKH 416,
Ah, yes, this
That-
individual.
and they're like, well, it picks up the traffic. I'm like, well, that's a very directional mic, so maybe point it away from the traffic. Point it towards something else, because that's what it's going to pick up everything in its path.
Yeah,
That's what the MKH 416 does.
The MKH Force, whenever somebody has a not great or not ideal room for, because yes, that is the second half of the sound transmission class equation. Is like, oh, people always gravitate towards, okay, sound inside getting out, but then it's a lot of the time the concern is sound outside going in.
Yeah.
So and STC goes both ways, obviously. So whenever somebody has a badly treated room, oftentimes rather than trying to, I just say get a SM7.
Yeah.
Like get a dynamic mic.
It's easier to say that sometimes, but I mean,
and it
Ben,
works. Honestly, it works.
Ben, consider that like it's not if you don't have the ability to put up sound panels because you can't put stuff into walls. A booth is going to change your environment, and when I say change your environment, I mean it'll wreck your floor. It will like that. They're heavy as God all
Yeah.
knows. Sometimes they can't even get them in because they're too big or they're too tall or. So it's going to wreck your environment more than putting a couple tacks in the walls.
Well, and not to mention it'll mess up your workflow depending on if you're used to voicing like around your rig or whatever you're doing. Like it'll be an adjustment.
Well,
Any-
and you also
anytime
have to
I've-
wire it up. You have to like, oh my God. A
Anytime
booth
I've
can be a
added
pain in
it,
the ass.
yeah, booths can be a pain in the ass. A lot of times they can be worth it. We're not deterring people from building booths, but it is certainly there's a lot of things to consider rather than just well, I want to, And in my case, like I do have a booth. Not, it's a kitchen job, as I call them. But most of the time, unless I'm recording something critical, I'm out here with this guy, and
Yeah.
this room has no treatment, and it's got hardwood
kidding.
floors, and nobody hears it ever.
Urshad Sedek. Hey guys, remember I asked for advice on which audio interface to get? I went with the Audient ID14 Mark II. and I
Urshad, that will
love it.
do you well. That is a great
Yeah.
interface.
That is a great interface. I mostly use it with an SM7B and no mic activator. Yeah, I don't know how much alpha hand, know how much gain that's got.
I believe the ID14 and the ID44, I think is his bigger brother.
Yeah.
Both are using the ASP8 series preamp schematic, which has 70 dB, 75 dB of gain.
Yeah, that's good then. You're okay.
If
Yeah.
I don't know for certain, but they're all in the same lineup. So the ASP880, which is the one that I have, and the little brother to that, the ASP800, both have 70 plus dB of gain. So right now I'm running the SM7, not on the stream, but I'm running the SM7 through just that pre with no activator.
Nice. Dan, it's the right triangle shaped booth that I was talking about.
Yep.
Yeah,
that'll
considered-
do well. The only thing that you're gonna have an issue with is that you could have an issue with is that 90-degree angle. That's the one thing. But the parallelism is decent.
Okay. All right. My Asus wants to update.
Great timing.
My Asus? Go away.
Yeah, that's for you must have an Asus motherboard.
And I was talking to my buddy about this, about getting the right angle booth, because I was considering doing a right angle triangle booth for him. You got to build it bigger, because then this is the one thing I was thinking about. If he's doing narration in there and he's rubbing up against the blankets with a condenser microphone, you're going to get rustle. And so that's what I'm thinking. Like, if you're doing a right angle triangle, you've actually got to expand it even more. So
I would, just to get you the hell away from that. 58 dB is not great. You're certainly not recording ASMR videos with that on the SM7. But I mean, you know what? The SM7 technically needs around 60 dB for a healthy SPL level to get up to 0 dBu. So it's in most cases it's probably workable
yeah, as long as
long as it's quiet. As long as it's a quiet preamp.
Dan says, cool. The ID14 has enough gain for that mic. Yeah, I mean, 58 dB, you're still gaining in post.
Yes,
You're gaining up
a
in
little
post.
bit, at least a little bit. But hopefully, it's Audient and their preamps
Oh.
are pretty high quality.
Wait a second, Bandrew.
Yeah, I know. I saw that
Okay,
comment. I was
all right.
laughing about it. We are not. We are not.
Only by adoption.
Yeah, only by
Okay.
we're not blood. We're not by blood.
No, we're not even adopt. We actually met in radio broadcasting school.
Yes, we did. Aiden was my mentor.
Yes.
Aiden was my. I was in first year, and he was in second year, and Aiden was my second year mentor for on air.
Yes.
By
And
the
that's-
way, actually, just as a side point, my PD, one of our PDs, had to review an air check for the students. I guess this is something that they're doing now. They send it out to
Yeah,
industry.
yeah.
And she wasn't ripping it apart, but I told her, I said, you should listen to my first air check. It's
Oh,
atrocious. So I went back and I found it and I was listening to it. And I said, like, I was doing a weather break. And I said, like, coming up at around noon this afternoon. And it's like, oh, cringe. Oh, no.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah.
But I sent it to her. She's like, no, this is actually really good. Like, you should do, like, if that was your first air check, like, shit, you should be doing VTing. I'm like, now I've signed myself up for extra work. Thank you. Fucking.
To clear the air completely, Jill and I are just good friends.
Yes.
And that's, no relation.
Good friends, good business partners
Yes, exactly.
on several things.
Yeah, we'll see when the minis. I think you need money pouring in before you can technically be business partners. But
Yeah,
money
well, I mean, I make you money. You paid me money.
trickle.
You've trickled me over money once, so
Trickle. There's
and
trickle.
at some point you're gonna trickle me over some whatever that shit is in the pouches.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna.
I forgot.
Christmas
Literally,
is now
it's been
taken
so
over.
long. I literally forgot what it's called.
Christmas is taken over. This whole end of this year has been ridiculous. And to be perfectly honest, half the reason this end of this year has been ridiculous has because this channel's kind of started to move, and I'm trying to keep up with it. I'm trying to and when I say move, I'm like, products are coming. I haven't purchased a mic in quite a while. I've got products showing up. I've got all these like different deadlines. I've got so along with my day job, I'm also trying to maintain and manage a channel that makes sense most of the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, good news / bad news. January, that won't be a problem anymore.
Yeah, don't tell my wife that's good news. But yeah, so it's been like I don't have time to think. I have had my battery backup, my new battery backup, just sitting just over there. My my APC or no UPS, APC UPS has just been sitting over there.
Apocalypse.
Yeah.
To Bandrew's point, I don't know if this is a test or not, but 0 dB FS would leave me no headroom. 0 dBu gives me 18 dB of headroom. In my case, I know every preamp is different, but usually 18 dBu in the digital realm adds up to about, give or take, neg 18, neg 20 dBFS. So it's still, I go for 0 dBu because that's what analog gear is optimized for. So I shoot for 0 dBu generally around there for my peaks.
All right, I'm getting behind on shit here. Red Cabin, a blanket booth with packing blankets that have fullness. Waves is much better than a flat hung drape. Yes. Same as in a room, 100% fullness in a drape as long as the length you're covering. Yes, absolutely. Big Tasty. Actually, the vocal booth I'm looking, it is billed as portable and is on a stand. It's more similar to the Isovox as opposed to the Whisper Room, but it's made out of moving blankets, more or less. I've seen those, Ben, and I've seen a lot of them. If you're not willing to build it and you're not willing to kind of DIY, I mean, I saw one for $500. Actually, it was linked to me by a friend. Sure, $500 if you can get quality voiceover with a blanket booth that they just sent you. You might as well. $500 is also very cheap for being able to do voiceover.
Also, on the topic of boots, another point that's good to know that just came to my head that we haven't talked about yet is there is a popular misconception when building either a mixing space or a a recording space, a booth, that you need to blanket the entire room in treatment from top to bottom, all the way around. Like every surface needs to be completely covered. That's false.
Yes.
If that's a thing that you're able to do financially and practically, then by all means. But most of the time, as long as you're covering in the same sort of latitude, longitude, so to speak, as where your mic is and where your sound source are, surfaces are parallel. So unless you have a surface like at an angle pointing up at the mic and it's not treated and it's going to bounce up, but sound works a lot like light in the sense that it bounces from point to point in a very predictable fashion. So I've gone to many broadcast, podcast, those types of studios where the midsection of the room is the only part that's treated. There's regular on the bottom 1.5 feet of the room and the top 1.5 feet. It's just drywall. There's nothing there.
Well, that's this whole studio.
Yeah,
this whole studio.
And it honestly, it works like a charm. And it's funny though, like when you're in one of those rooms and you're talking and you're at the regular midpoint, it's funny to like someone's talking to you and like move your head down into the untreated space and suddenly like the whole like profile of the room changes. It's a really
becomes
weird.
alive.
Yeah, it's a really weird experience.
All right. I'm missing stuff here. Okay, so brothers from other mothers, basically. And bangs. Mr. Wolf is very tall and has very little headroom most of the time. Yes, that was the DBS or DBU comment.
You're tall.
I'm 6 foot. What?
I just had a brain fart.
Okay.
I just had a brain fart.
My
I'm like, wait, what are
the
we talking about?
Daytona, my drapes go from the ceiling to the floor, then the room is carpeted. To be fair, I run Deity 3 Pro directly into camera, so I'm not as intense as you guys, but I don't hear the neighbor's dogs. That's impressive. If you've got ceiling to floor drapes, room carpeted, you wouldn't need to do much else as long as you're not yelling. And that's also the other thing that is very important to point out. I have a ladder that sits about 8 feet away from me on the wall that I just haven't bothered to put away. If I yell, I'll hear the resonance of my voice off the ladder. It's actually really cool, especially if I let my voice go up a bit while I'm yelling.
Oh,
You'll
yeah,
actually
I
hear it.
have that. I have that in this room, and sometimes it drives me nuts because I hear something resonating, and I have no idea what it is. Sometimes I'm like, and I'll walk around my room just like,
Yeah.
like looking for
Your
it.
neighbors are thinking you're a nut
Yeah,
job.
they're thinking someone's being like murdered.
But this
It's
is
amazing.
This is the thing, right? Like if I'm yelling, it becomes a problem. But if I'm actually quiet, I can gain up my mic just a little bit because I have quiet praise, gain it up a little bit, and then you don't hear anything. It's just dry voice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of dynamics that go into getting proper sound out of things. And if you're using a Deity D3 Pro, I believe that's the camera mounted, the D3. Those are omnidirectional. So usually they're omni, or they're not technically omni. They're not as directional as they could be. So they will pick up a lot of reflections. So sometimes maybe a lapel mic that can go underneath your clothing or something might be better.
It's interesting on the topic, like, because you were talking about how you brought a preamp down, and it seemed to take less of the room into the signal. It's interesting. Way back, like long before I was in radio, when I was doing more live stuff, a mentor of mine at the time, Pete Gilroy, a guy who's been in the business doing records and live shit for like 36 years. He was talking about in a live context something, and this is gonna, like, people that have never mixed live, this is gonna drive you nuts. This idea, because it's gonna seem so backwards, but where you take like they call it a hockey stick mix, but you know, not literally taking a hockey stick, but it paints a good picture. And you put all the faders at unity, all the post volume, as we would call it, and you adjust your levels, your balance with the gain pots only, and all the faders are left at unity. Because they talk about, in a live context, they talk about how the gain, the way he would describe it is the gain is like a mouth, like a jaw opening up. Like the more you open up the gain, the more shit, mathematically, the more shit is going to start to come in your signal. So if you focus on getting the right level with the gain and don't touch your faders, it's a good exercise to do. I wouldn't actually run a paid gig like that for practical reasons. But it is a good exercise because, gain levels, like, all this to say, be very careful with where you set your gain because it can drastically affect the sound.
Absolutely. Bangs, is your APCC a smart UPS with transformer of a back UPS with stepped voltage sine waves? Yes. What do you want? It's the APC 1500 watt UPS. It's like a $400 backup.
1500 watt or 1500 VA?
1500. What's that?
Voltage amps, probably.
It's the 1500W.
Interesting. So it's obviously rated at 1500 joules per second. I don't generally tend to care too much about the wattage. My V.
Okay, but it's the name of it is the 1500W.
Okay.
So I'm talking into it as if you can fully hear me here. I can't
Oh, no,
pull
I
it
can-
over
I
here
know.
because it's bloody heavy.
No, I know. I can hear you. Yeah. No.
right.
I've got a cyber power. big-
Bandrew has a special request. He wants footage of you walking around barking to check for resonance. Could you do
Oh,
that
absolutely.
for me?
Yeah.
That'd
Sure.
be fantastic.
Honestly, I have done that, like, whenever I'm doing a consult for like a venue, like a bar, or actually this one strip club time when I was brought into consult for the rig in there.
Consult, yeah.
I'll walk around and I'll be like,
Yeah, and then you just walk around with a stapler and a piece of foam, and every time you hear something, you're like, there it is, clink.
I've done that. I use Post-it notes.
Yeah.
I use Post-it notes and I put them on the walls, and I've like they're very visible, like they're like bright purple.
Yeah.
So like, but like people always are like, "What the fuck is this?" And like, but then I like they think this guy's nuts, and then I'll actually go and I'll treat those spaces after, and they're like, "Wow, that sounds great." I'm like,
In my original studio, I had open rafter ceiling, so it was I was in the basement, but it was basically all of the heat and return was all up there, and if I spoke too loud, you'd hear the bzzz coming up from above me, and it's just the bass in my voice rattling the metal. And so I'd walk around the basement going, hey, 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 and just like taping the stuff down with foam.
I hate metal. I love the genre, but I hate the substance. It's really bad for sound things.
Apparently my level's lower than Dylan's. Okay.
I did. It's funny that I literally, like in the last sentence that you said, I was kind of cluing into that.
All right. 1 second. Let's get this done. All right, there we go. Now I'm nice and loud. Oh my God, I got to.
I'm also going through a processor, so there's naturally going to be a mismatch.
It's going to be a little bit. Oh wow, that's a little too loud. Okay, let's bring it down. I don't want a red line. I don't want to be.
I was going to say I hear those mouth clicks.
Actually, you know what? I'm just going to turn Dylan down. Everyone will thank me. Don't worry.
Okay. Man, the limiter light on the processor just went.
No kidding. Okay, right angles reflect audio, so corners need attention usually. Yes. Bangs.
feel like
deleted
if
Twitter
I
and
didn't,
Facebook
I
a while
apologize.
ago. Daz is here. Your mic is a bit quiet. Sorry, this is the problem with being so far behind in comments, by the way. I'm literally like 7 minutes out of people telling me that my mic is quiet. I
think it's when you went to go to your UPS and when you came back, there was something happened there.
Oh, really?
Well, like suddenly when you came back, you were just a touch quieter. I don't know.
We're caught up in comments. Oh my God. Okay, so I wanted to ask you about this, Dylan. I sent it to you in Facebook.
I did not. The answer is I did not yet. This weekend I will. Like tomorrow, probably.
No, but we're talking about the unit. Like the unit was just announced. You don't need to have
I thought you were talking about a voiceover.
No.
Oh, okay, because you did that. You asked me about that too.
SSL launches the Big 6. 12-channel hybrid mixer. It's going for about 3,500 Canadian rubles.
Okay, I mean, I'm the worst person to ask this question to because I am a bit of an SSL fanboy.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking you, by the way. Kind of the point.
This is fair. That said, I will give them shade where it is due. They have not updated the drivers for the MX series in almost 10 years. So SSL,
right.
What the fuck?
Okay.
So I'm just pointing that out.
It's much more profitable to release a new mixer, by the way.
Yep. Apparently. So I'm looking at it. It's got the standard, SSL color scheme that we all love with the knobs. Love it. It looks a lot. So here's the thing. SSL as a company, what they are known for, and the reason why SSL consoles are probably the most common large format console that recording studios use in the world, and they have been that way since the 80s, pretty much, is because SSL boards, they sound good. I'm not saying they don't sound good. The preamps are solid. The EQs are remarkable. Like the E series that they usually use in their 9000 series boards, for example, are awesome. And the G series compressor. Duh. But I'm nerding out right now. That said, they're not known for any of that stuff. What they are known for is flexibility. Their consoles, the routing flexibility in their consoles is unmatched. The things that you can do, the ways that you can send signals around in an analog board. Now, Neve is great. Rupert Neve boards are great. AMS Neve boards are great. They sound amazing, but the flexibility isn't there. I can't move modules of a channel strip virtually around with key switches in the same way. So looking at the 6, the reason I bring that up is it doesn't look quite as flexible. That said, I love how organized it is.
Oh, it's probably flexible it's probably...
I mean, it's hard because it is a smaller unit, so it's hard to achieve the same amounts. I like that it has full segment meters. I like, again, I like the organization. The layout of it is really neat. I hate that the ports are on the top. That bothers
yeah,
me.
I noticed that. I'm like, God damn it, people, stop it.
No,
Put it in the
no.
back.
Yep, I know, and I understand why they do it because a lot of people will have their board like butted up against a wall or something. So I get it, but
Yeah.
it really kills your cables. So like
But you've always got some cables coming out the back anyways.
you've got your power cable, yeah,
Right,
definitely.
like-
At least a power cable. Like I've got my board here, my old like '90s Mackie that is like my workhorse. It's got the back is riddled with ports and the top is riddled with ports. It's a
Yeah.
mess. In my case, I've got probably 3 feet of clearance behind it, so I don't really care. But I don't know what's the MSRP for this. Do we know?
I think it's like 3,500 Canadian.
Oh, fuck right off.
Dylan, your audio and video's out of sync. Urshad, that's just Dylan. Dylan's actually
Well,
that's
we're on
just
Discord. That's Discord versus Clean Feed.
when
the
you see
problem.
him in real life, he does the same thing. It's kind of
Yeah,
weird.
that is working. All right, well, but no, that's Clean Feed. And if we were using the Discord audio, it would be synced, but we're not.
Clean feed is a lot quicker than the Discord.
Yep,
video,
Yep, which is fair, I guess. Yeah,
3,500 Canadian is what it's going for.
I love SSL, but I would not pay $3,500 for a 6-channel board like that.
12 channel.
Oh yeah, because it's got the 2 stereo.
Yep.
And it's got those. Yeah. And it's got the 4 mic channels. The 4. I mean, it's not really 12. It's 8 channels.
Yeah, no, I know, but what they market it as.
Technically, it's 12 channels, but it's like
Yeah.
4 of them are stereo.
Well, that's everything markets itself like that.
I hate
18 in,
I hate
20
that.
out.
It's
Is
so well in the old world when Mackie started the 4-digit naming scheme, and most manufacturers at that time followed the four numbers. Like in the 1642, for example, told you there's 16 channels, 4 of them are paired, and there's 2 buses, or there's 2 sets of buses. The 1604 has no stereo, it's 16 straight channels. At some point, we moved away from that, and I don't like it.
Good evening, Sean. Although Sean's probably watching from the beginning, so good evening in a few minutes. Somebody just came to the door. Hold the crowd. Keep talking about the board, Dylan.
Okay. All right. So that said, I mean, looking at it, I'm not surprised. SSL stuff is very pricey, and it's well made. There's high quality equipment, and most of the time, it is in a sense worth it. But looking at what it is and guessing, I haven't read this Gear Sluts article. Are they still calling this Gear Space article. Not totally sure who they're targeting with this. Bandrew, have you looked into this at all? Do you have any idea, if you had to guess, what their segment is, what their vertical is that they're targeting with this board? Or anybody else for that matter? But because I'd be curious to see. I don't think podcasters would be interested in this board for the price and for the fact that it's got way too many buttons for what you'd be probably needing. What do we think? What do we think, gang? What do we think they're targeting with the SSL Big 6 board? As far as a segment, I guess small scale project studios like music studios would probably want to use that on account of SSL stuff is quite common in the music. But yeah, I don't know, $3,500 for a board with its feature set for me. That's a professional price point, and this is not a product that, unless you're a professional voiceover person, this is not a product that many professionals would be interested in at a professional price point.
You're saying the SSL board?
I just threw the question out to the gang to see because I'm trying to figure out what vertical they're targeting with this. It's certainly not podcasting. My
No.
guess is the Project Studio vertical.
Yep. Or the home recording, like somebody recording their band. You know.
Yeah, well, that's the the Project Home Studio segment for me. I think that's really what this would appeal to. But the problem is, in my opinion, it's not at a Project Home segment price point.
No, not even close.
I was just telling somebody the other day, it's like I have a pretty good instinct when something doesn't make sense. Oftentimes I can't articulate it right away, but I have a good compass for that.
Yeah.
And so looking at this now, after having thought about it for the last 10 minutes, there's a price mismatch with the vertical they're targeting. I think.
I want to play with it. I'm just.
Absolutely, 100%. And it's a guarantee. It's a lovely board, and it will probably last a lifetime.
Yeah.
On account of these things are built in Oxford and they're built quite robustly. But yeah, I don't know.
Ben says college degree or SSL board.
Pretty much.
Well,
yeah.
and that's the thing.
Or
with that.
In the case of the AWS series boards or the Duality board, it's mortgage or SSL board.
But you also got to remember, like, from the differential of using interface versus mixer, if you're just if you need the mixer, if you need the 12-channel mixer, you've got it there. Yes, it's expensive, but yes, it's an SSL. Yes,
It's
has
a SSL.
it has the onboard compression. It has the it comes in obviously with the plugin suite. It comes well equipped. It's not going to be
Oh yeah,
a slouch,
it
right?
is. It is certainly well equipped. Is it going to be quite as versatile as the digital facilities within like a Rodecaster? Probably not. But that said, the sound quality you will get out of it will far exceed that of a Rodecaster. I'm going to get a lot of flack for that. But
No. Well, most things will. And
Yeah.
there's no offense to a Rodecaster. Rodecaster is meant to, record four
it's
guys
meant
sitting
to-
around a table.
Yeah, it's meant to get the job done. It's
Yeah.
meant to be functional. But you're not going to get like artisanal quality sound out of it.
Artisanal quality.
That's going to be my new thing. I think that's going to be my new thing.
Artisanal quality. Quite
Artisanal
like the
sound.
bread. Oh, yes.
But it's like sorry, you continue.
Dan just asked, anyone ever tried the UAD guitar stomp boxes? No, but I do look forward to getting into that stuff.
It's interesting. A UAD, so I assume it's got built-in Sharp DSP processors in it,
Probably.
or Shark DSP processors in it, which is great because you can run DSP plugins on it. So I like UAD plugins. I'm not gonna lie. I like the UAD2 stuff. And the idea of I'm a big fan of this, and I've had so many arguments over the years with people about this, but I'm a big fan of things that workflow-wise allow you to do things and think about the work you're doing in a different way, in a more conducive way. So having something like a stomp box, if you're a guitar player, and being able to use that for recording and interact with your tools differently in a more realistic way, I love that. I really, really love that. So whenever they create like the Line 6 Helix, prime example of another tool that has kind of made a mark for doing that. And we've talked about control surfaces. Like Aiden, you've talked about at some point you want to start migrating into that segment a little bit. And I love control surfaces if they make sense, unlike that weird mouse with the ball hanging off it and the.
I still want to try it though. God damn it.
I want to try it too, but I'm sure as hell not paying for it. That's not
UAD
gonna happen.
Luna sure is a different DAW. I've never used the Luna.
Luna. Ooh, I love the name. I gotta say, I've never even used it, but I would be open to trying it.
And that's the thing. Like I've done so little with Universal Audio stuff with their gear. I'm getting a Thunderbolt card put on my PC, and I was one guy today, kind of crapping all over me because of the video on the Antelope Audio video. He's like, Antelope Audio sucks on Windows. It's only good on Mac. I'm like, well, that's not fair. And like, cause he actually said the first thing he said on the comment was, I didn't even watch the video, but this is my 2 cents. And so I basically told him, and I said, dude, I'm just going to say like only idiots comment on videos if you haven't watched the video.
If you got no skin in the game, shut the fuck up.
But then he watches the video and he gets mad because I made him watch the video, and he's like, well, all my points were valid. And I said, yeah, I didn't read your comment before I commented. Sorry, buddy. Like, come on, like at least watch the video. Anyways, his whole point is like it only works with Mac. I'm like, well, it worked for me after
Here's
a time.
the thing. Like, honestly, people have said this about Pro Tools. Pro Tools, that's shit on Windows. It works great on Mac. No, it's fine on Windows. I use it literally every day, 7 days
So
a week.
do a lot of studios.
And it works just fine. Now that said, and this isn't Pro Tools, this is the operating system, just to be clear. There are certain optimizations that you must make in order to get the most performance out of Pro Tools on a Windows system to get the most performance and stability, but that doesn't have as much to do with the DAW as it does with just Windows discombobulated operating system.
Yes.
And on a Mac, it's a simpler OS, and I hate it because Macs aren't as flexible as PCs, but the result of them not being flexible is they tend to be a lot stabler.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, this is funny. Urshad says Bandra just got a $7,000 or has just spent $7,000 on his new mic, so $3,500 for an SSL board is nothing.
No, but we're talking about Bandrew, makes money off of these things. There's cash flow there.
Also, even
If you're a project studio, the whole reason that you are a project studio is because you don't make money or the money that you make is negligible. So
I do have to say that U67 reissue, if there's a microphone that can produce sound that gets you pregnant, which I'm pretty sure I'm pregnant after listening to that video. Wow, that U67 sound was just
Oh yeah, the U67. As far as the Grandade of LDC tube mics, it's
I instantly wanted one. I was like, well, fuck it. I'm buying a $7,000 mic, I guess. Who cares?
Now it doesn't beat Telefunken's recreation of the U47.
Yeah, probably not. But how much is that one? That's 12, right?
That's about 14, I think.
It's 14. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have 14,000. I don't have 7,000.
I would be interested though to put the U67 up against a C12, a vintage C12.
Yeah, but then you're talking like vintage puts, like, for example, this microphone, which I am popping. I apologize. When you
sound
put
like
vintage
a
on it,
jalopy.
there's a ton of different things that become problematic with
Oh yeah,
vintage.
the
Like,
manufacturing processes were different at the time.
well,
like, there's
not only that, the
tons of
environment
variables.
it's sat in for the past 20 years is going to
Yep.
have a negative or positive impact.
Yeah.
You can
Now,
tell this
again,
thing has smoke on it.
Ideally, in a hypothetical situation, this would be pretty much impossible. But if I could have anything I wanted, it'd be a U67 reissue versus a new old stock C12.
Okay.
On account of I would be interested to compare them because the C12, as far as benchmarking other mics, in the big leagues, it is kind of like the U87. It is like things are regularly measured against the C12.
Nice. When did they stop producing the C12? Was that 82 or something? Or did
It
that
wasn't
go
as
into the 90s?
It wasn't as far back as the 47, but it's I think around the 80s if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Sean just won the internet with his comment. Pregnant
What is-
audio makes me think of the U.S. Supreme decision on Roe versus Wade.
Oh, we went there. Oh, wow.
I know. I'm giving props to that.
Mazel-
it's dark. It's real dark.
It's dark, but so am I. So,
But I gotta give props. I apologize to anyone for me laughing at that.
pregnant audio makes me.
So
think
let's
wow.
go back here. Big Tasty Ben says, I almost forgot when I get me a new home, I'll be building me a new PC for audio production based on Linux. But I'm wondering if I should get the AudioFuse Studio or the ID44 for hardware support. I don't know if there's Linux support on either of those. I don't know much about Linux.
Now,
I do know
think
Linux support is like it can be a real pain in the ass.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons. Like, obviously, I've seen all of the Linus videos in the last, couple months about Linux. Yay, Linux, and I'm like, Linux is a great OS, or most of the distributions are anyway. Other than Backtrack 3, that was just shit OS. But I've used a lot of Linux distros, and they work great. But the problem is, there's no support for anything.
No.
Like that said, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't think I am, but I could be, Reaper has a Linux variant that runs that will run Reaper, and Reaper is a great DAW. So if you are on Linux and on the software side, I would go Reaper. As far as hardware, I don't know what interfaces.
Well, and here's the thing, like, for example, with the problem I ran into with Antelope Audio, if that happened with Linux, they can't help you. There's so many variables in Linux.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
so
well,
many variables.
there's hundreds of distributions for a start.
And they don't have, like, when you call somebody up at a help desk for a company, they've got a list of things that they can do to
PC
help
Mac. PC Mac. That's the question. PC Mac.
And there's
like,
nothing for Linux.
The support point is a really good point. So it's great that you brought that up. But I think also when it comes to, and a lot of like Linux power users, who I do actually have a lot of respect for, because it is a pain in the ass of an OS to get shit working on sometimes. They will tell you that you can grab Windows drivers and install them inside wrappers and all these little things. But I'm like, those for me, that just makes me cringe because shit like that, as much as there's people that swear by it, but I'm like, that adds so many extra points of failure to an already shaky
and if
environment.
you make any amount of money, every point of failure could take that money away from
could cost you money. Yeah. So if
It's
you're
not
making
worth
money, just get a Mac.
Yeah. No. And
As much as I hate Macs because recently they're not so good at being mission critical, but I mean, if you get a PC as well, but I would say. And there's a lot of, like, I built my most recent studio rig, and it was the biggest pain in my ass this year.
But it was fun. Shut up. It was fun,
It was fun. The actual building of it, the actual hardware construction was great. The software calibration of creating a stable environment sucked, and I hated every aspect of that. So if you are making money, do yourself a favor, buy a pre-built machine or buy a machine from a site.
Pre-builts aren't as good, and you know one of the reasons you
No,
run into all the problems.
no. It depends what we're talking about for pre-builts.
No,
if you're talking about the HP workstation, the Z series,
Yes,
those are
okay.
pretty much.
What
That's what I'm talking about for pre-builts.
What I mean, though, is the biggest problem you run into isn't with the hardware and the hardware issues that are interacting. It's the fact that when you have so much crap that you've got to install on your computer.
Oh yeah, the more shit you add, the less stable your system's going to be.
And that's the problem. Like my old Ryzen 7 1700 did not work well with the audio fuse. In fact, the audio fuse would blue screen the computer once a month, give or take. Like, and that's just that's just what that was. It was because they weren't updating the BIOS, or I wasn't willing to update the BIOS to fix that, and so it just wasn't worth it for me. Then I updated to this, and everything's working fine. But then you add in like another piece of equipment, and it's like, oh, I don't like how that thing works with that thing and that thing and that thing.
Right now, I haven't had a blue screen in a while. Actually, while I was testing the system and getting everything up and running, I was getting actually probably a blue screen at least once every hour. And I would log them and most of the time it's a hardware issue. But I guarantee at some point next year, I'm planning on replacing my front end, or I should say actually my back end, with an Antelope. I'm drawing a blank. Orion 32 HD. Once I replace it with that, and I retire my MBox 2 from 2004, and I retire my shitty SSL, it's a great interface, but the drivers suck. I'm going to see a lot better stability on this system. Yeah, I guarantee it.
UAD over Thunderbolt sounds like it's harder to get to work on Windows, but not impossible. Yeah, UAD,
well,
I ran
again,
into
it depends.
issues with it.
If you have, like in my case, I have my motherboard natively supports Thunderbolt 4. So I've run some Thunderbolt tests on it with Mac drives and shit, and it has no issues. So it's really dependent on your Windows system.
Yeah, but I hook up a UAD. I did one when I did the Universal Audio Apollo Twin, and it wasn't recognized by CleanFeed. CleanFeed refused to recognize it. So it's like, yeah, there's a lot of like quirks.
Sean's just coming in with the zingers.
Yeah.
Oh wait, like this I'm loving this.
Sean Bangs, but the Neewer NW800 sounds just fine for most people. Oh, shut up, Bangs. I refuse, and like this is the thing. A lot of people are like, try the Pile mic. It's good. It's great. Review that.
No.
I'm so hesitant to buy anything that's below a Shure SM58 anymore. Like it's such a waste of money. No one at Neewer is going to give me the mic, which is
waste
fine.
of money, and it's a waste of space.
Well, and that's the problem. Like I'm also kind of like, if Neewer wants to reach out and say, here, test the NW800. Okay, I'll do it, but I'm not spending my money on it. No. And I think that's kind of where I've gotten to with like with the Behringer mics and all that. I'll never buy another Pile mic ever. Blue screen can be difficult to key out without the right lighting. It's true. Not bad. All right, Sean. Okay, so we're talking about soup. That's about it. I actually have family over.
We're talking about soup.
Yeah, they're all talking about soup. We're all done here. And I almost forgot. This is actually the name of the video, and we didn't even talk about it. Discord. We have a new Discord. If you're a member, you've already gotten an invite. The members are already in on the Discord. I'm going to be sending out a link for everybody if you want to come and join the Discord. There is a members only area. It's the Champagne Room. And you know what they say about the Champagne Room. I just want to point that out, please.
Please.
But yeah, I'm going to be sending out the link for the Discord, and it's just basically a community to hang out at.
I don't want to be a grammar Nazi, but I just want to point out that you just made a non-request sentence and put please at the end of it.
Yeah, okay.
Also, Bangs making thermopile jokes. Love it.
Yeah. So anyways, if you guys want to join up and you want to continue the conversation, which a lot of the conversation is basically what we have here on the live stream anyways.
But 24 hours a day.
We're looking at whether or not we can kind of add some value. Dylan can add some value somehow in the members area of like doing some live streaming and some very specific live streaming. Like Dylan was talking about live streaming mixes. When you're doing
or live streaming, even Even something interesting I could see also, this just hit me earlier when I was thinking about it, is doing like, assuming it's not a hush hush NDA voice session, but actually doing like voicing a live and brainstorming with the people in the room, brainstorming, like if you have to play a certain character or something on a thing, bring in the team, and let's work together and try to figure out have the people on Discord coach you or me who is voicing the thing.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think that'd be kind of neat.
Ken says Aiden giving lap dances in the champagne room.
Hey.
Become a member and you might find out. Maybe
Yeah,
you don't
there
want to
go.
find out.
That's
I
a
don't know.
billboard and a half.
So yeah, I'll be sending the link out over the community tab. So check that out if you really want to come in. And like I said, it's basically this, only no video, and we'll be around time to time. I try to check in there once a day. It's not guaranteed that I'm going to be there all the time, but I do always generally have it up on my desktop and behind me. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for coming out, and we'll see you next